Hello, there's something soothing in wearing swishy crispy white underthings. Today I'm going to show you how I starch my petticoat. I had never done this before, so I had to experiment. It was a lot of fun. All I needed was a pan, an ice cream spoon, of course you can use a teaspoon, a little cold water, this here is far too much, and of course starch. I used potato starch. I didn't know anything about starch, I don't use it in my cooking, and my mum only had potato starch. All I knew to start with was that you need 1 tablespoon of starch per kilogram of clothes. As I only wanted to starch my lightweight petticoat, I started with 2 ice cream spoons of starch. I mixed it with a little cold water. I don't know if this was necessary since, as I said, I know nothing about starch. Then I had some boiling water, which I started to add little by little while constantly stirring. Soon it started to change and become transparent. Then I poured this solution into the big pan of hot water while keeping stirring. Next I filled the basin with some very warm water and poured in the solution. Then I put my petticoat in this water. I had just washed it, so it was still wet. I don't know how this affected the result of the experiment. I was a bit worried about the outcome as the petticoat was covered with dark fluff and bits of thread from my other sewing projects. Almost as soon as I put it in the water, it got kind of slimy. I hung the petticoat to let it drip. I hung it folded because gravitation pulls water downwards, so if hung by the waist dries completely while the flounce is still dripping. You may want to protect your ironing board, for example with a sheet, but as I found it isn't really necessary. I used a hot iron without steam. The petticoat ironed beautifully, but the gathers made the task difficult. The petticoat stuck to the sheet but peeled off, leaving no mark at all. Ironing a single steaming petticoat on a hot summer day made me wonder how much labor used to go into ironing heaps of garments and sheets. I thought I could try what happened if I used the starchy water without soaking the garment, so I took off my chemise and wet it. It was definitely easier to iron the chemise and even got a little crispness. I found a few starch flakes on the petticoat, but they came off easily. The petticoat looked very clean, and though you can't see it here, it became much whiter. Also, all the fluff was gone. But it didn't feel starched enough. So I started the experiment again. This time I used 3 ice cream spoons of starch. I repeated the steps. But then something different happened. The starch started to thicken really fast and became lumpy. I didn't want to waste all that starch, so I added back some of the water to clean the pan. I heated it for about a minute, but then I said, wait, it has to be a no cooking project. So I used a sieve, but there was too much starch left in it. Fortunately, I managed to dissolve most of it. I added some cold water because I didn't want to cook the petticoat. Ironing was much easier than the previous time, but the flan still took ages. Now the petticoat was even more swishy and crispy. Wearing the starched petticoat without stockings felt rather unpleasant. I think if worn for a longer period of time, it would rub my legs red. I put on my new walking skirt to see how the starched petticoat affects the shape. Well, I don't know, I expected something more. Obviously, I still have to experiment with starch, but on the whole, I'm satisfied with my first results. If you liked this video, please give it a thumb up. Don't forget to subscribe and click on the bell icon for notifications.